The factory was quiet, except for the sound of machines. Doan kept his eyes on his work, his hands moving slowly over the metal parts. He had done this job for 6 years now. Every day was the same. Wake up, work, sleep, feel nothing. That was the rule. Feel nothing. 3 rows behind him, a man named Kiwan started to cry. Doan heard it first as a small sound, like a hurt animal. Then it grew louder. Kiwan was thinking about his wife. She had been taken 2 weeks ago for emotional correction. She came back yesterday, but she was not the same person anymore. Her eyes were empty. She did not recognize him. Doan wanted to turn around. He wanted to help. But he kept his eyes forward and made his heart go cold. The readers would catch it. They always did. Within 3 minutes, the doors opened. 2 Villani enforcers walked in. They were tall and thin, with gray skin that looked like stone. Their eyes had no pupils, just flat circles of pale blue. They moved without sound, like ghosts. Everyone in the factory stopped working. Everyone looked down. The Villani walked straight to Kiwan. They knew exactly where he was. The small device at the back of his neck, the reader, had told them everything. It had felt his grief. It had measured his pain. It had sent a signal. Emotional instability. Subject requires correction. Kiwan did not fight. Nobody fought anymore. He stood up slowly and walked between the 2 enforcers. As he passed Doan's station, their eyes met for just 1 second. Doan saw fear there. Real human fear. Then Kiwan was gone. The factory returned to work. The machines started again. Doan's hands continued to move, but inside his chest, something was burning. He pushed the feeling down, deep down, and covered it with emptiness. This was life now. This was Earth. The Villani came 10 years ago. They did not come with giant weapons or huge armies. They came with something worse. They came with the ability to read every human feeling. They could sense emotions the way humans sense light or sound. To them, anger was red. Fear was sharp. Hope was bright like fire. They put readers on every human. The small devices connected to the brain and sent emotional data to the Villani network. Any strong feeling would create a flag. Anger meant you might fight. Hope meant you might plan. Love meant you had something to lose, something they could use against you. So humans learned to feel nothing. Parents taught their children to be empty. Schools taught emotional control. Couples stopped saying "I love you" because love was dangerous. The Villani did not need walls or chains. They had built a prison inside every human mind. Doan finished his shift and walked home through gray streets. The city of Busan looked sick. Buildings were dirty. Signs were broken. People walked with their heads down, their faces blank. Everyone was acting. Everyone was pretending to feel nothing while secretly dying inside. At home, Doan sat in his small room and looked at a photograph. His daughter Saman smiled back at him. She was 7 years old in this picture. She had loved to dance. She had laughed at everything. She died 4 years ago. A fever took her. The Villani medical centers could have saved her, but she was not important enough. Just another human child. Doan felt the grief rising in his chest. He closed his eyes and pushed it away. He imagined cold water. He imagined empty space. He made himself feel nothing. His reader stayed silent. The next morning, Doan walked to work through a checkpoint. Villani guards stood on both sides scanning the crowd. Their eyes moved over every face. Somewhere, their machines were reading thousands of readers at once, looking for trouble. That was when Doan saw her. She was an old woman, maybe 60 years old, with white hair and a small body. She walked slowly through the checkpoint, right past the guards. Her face was calm. Her reader was broadcasting peace and contentment. The guards did not even look at her twice. But Doan saw her eyes. There was fire in those eyes. Not peace. Not contentment. There was anger and purpose and something else. Something alive. She looked at Doan as she passed, and for just one moment she winked. Then she was gone. Du-hun stood frozen. His heart beat faster. How was that possible? How could she feel one thing and broadcast another? The readers were perfect. The Villani technology was perfect. Everyone knew that, but he had seen it. Her eyes told the truth. Her reader told a lie. That night, Do-hun could not sleep. He kept thinking about the old woman. He kept seeing that wink. It meant something. It changed something. Maybe the readers were not perfect. Maybe humans could fight back. The thought was dangerous. He pushed it away immediately. But it kept coming back, like water finding cracks in stone. 1 week later, Do-hun was called to the administration building. His reader had flagged something. Curiosity anomaly. He walked into Overseer Keth's office with cold fear in his stomach. But on the outside, he showed nothing. Keth was different from other Villani. He was older, his gray skin darker, his movements slower. He sat behind a desk made of black metal and looked at Do-hun with those empty blue eyes. Your emotional pattern shows curiosity, Keth said. His voice was flat like a machine. Curiosity is unusual for workers. Explain. Do-hun had prepared for this. He made his voice calm and empty. I was thinking about work, he said. I was curious about how to make the machines work faster. Better production. More output for the Villani? Keth stared at him for a long moment. Do-hun felt those eyes trying to look inside him. He imagined a wall. He imagined nothing. You wish to improve efficiency? Keth said slowly. Yes, Overseer. Another long silence. Then Keth waved his hand. Go. Return to work. But control your curiosity. Curiosity leads to questions. Questions lead to problems. Do-hun bowed and walked out. His legs were shaking, but his reader showed only mild relief. Appropriate for a worker who passed inspection. Outside, the sun was setting over Busan. Red and orange light painted the broken buildings. Do-hun stood there and made a decision. He would find the old woman. He would learn her secret. The Villani thought they knew everything about humans. They thought they could read every feeling, predict every action. They thought humans were simple, like books with every page open. But Do-hun had seen something they did not expect. A woman who could lie with her heart. A human who could wear a mask so perfect that even Villani technology could not see through it. If one person could do it, maybe others could too. Maybe humanity was not as broken as the Villani believed. Maybe the war was not over yet. Do-hun walked home through the darkening streets, his face empty, his reader broadcasting nothing special. But inside, where no machine could reach, a small flame had started to burn. Hope. Dangerous. Forbidden hope. And he was going to follow it. It took Do-hun 3 weeks to find her. He asked careful questions. He watched the streets. He followed small clues. The old woman lived alone in a broken apartment building on the edge of the city. Her name was Hannah. Do-hun stood outside her door for 10 minutes before he knocked. His reader was broadcasting calm patience, but his mind was racing with fear and excitement. What if he was wrong? What if she reported him? The door opened. Hannah looked at him with sharp eyes. She was small but not weak. There was strength in the way she stood, in the way she measured him. I saw you at the checkpoint, Do-hun said quietly. I saw your eyes. They did not match your reader. Hannah said nothing. She just stared at him. I want to know how, Do-hun continued. Please, I need to know. For a long moment, Hannah did not move. Then she stepped aside and let him in. Her apartment was full of old things. Photographs covered the walls. In every picture, Hannah was younger, wearing beautiful clothes, standing on stages. She had been an actress. A famous one, before the Villani came. Sit, she said. Du-hun sat on an old chair. Hannah sat across from him and studied his face. Why do you want to know? She asked. Because I am tired of feeling nothing, Do-hun said. Because they took my daughter and I could not even cry for her. Because I want to be human again. Hannah was quiet for a while. Then she nodded slowly. I was an actress for 40 years, she said. Do you understand what that means? I learned to feel emotions on command. Real emotions, not fake ones. When I played a sad woman, I was sad. When I played a happy woman, I was happy. The feelings were real, but I chose them. But the readers measure real feelings. You cannot trick them with acting. That is what everyone believes, Hannah said, but they are wrong. The readers measure what you feel. They do not measure what you think. The Villani cannot imagine feeling one thing while thinking another. Their species evolved in perfect emotional honesty. They cannot lie with their hearts. So they believe we cannot either, but we can. Hannah smiled. It was the first real smile Doan had seen in years. Humans are complicated, she said. We can feel many things at the same time. We can feel sad and happy together. We can feel angry while showing peace. The readers catch the strongest emotion, the one on top. So I learned to put a different emotion on top. I feel my real feelings underneath, but I cover them with something else. Something safe. How? Doan asked. How do you do it? Practice, Hannah said. Years of practice. And the right method? Stood up and walked to the window. The city lights flickered outside. Think of your mind like water, she said. Your real emotions are at the bottom. Deep down, the Villani see only the surface. You must learn to keep the surface calm while the bottom moves. Can you teach me? Hannah turned and looked at him. It is hard. It takes a long time. And it is dangerous. If you fail even once, they will take you. Are you ready for that? Dohan thought about his daughter. He thought about Kiwan being taken. He thought about living the rest of his life feeling nothing, as he said. I am ready. The training was harder than anything Doan had ever done. Every night he came to Hannah's apartment. They sat in the dark, and she taught him how to split his mind. First, he learned to hold two feelings at once. It felt impossible, like trying to look in two directions at the same time. His brain resisted. His body fought back. Think of a happy memory, Hannah said. Hold it in your mind. Feel the happiness. Doan thought of his daughter, laughing. Good now. While you hold that feeling, think of something that makes you angry. Do not let go of the happiness. Add the anger on top of it. Doan tried. The moment anger entered his mind, the happiness disappeared. He could not hold both. Again, Hannah said. They tried again and again. Days passed. Weeks passed. Doan got headaches that lasted for hours. Sometimes his nose bled from the mental effort. But slowly, very slowly, he began to learn. During the third week, a young woman started coming to the sessions. Her name was Yuna. She worked as a medic in the labor camps. She had found out about Doan's training by accident when she treated his stress injuries. I want to learn, she said to Hannah. I watch people come back from emotional correction every day. They are empty inside. I cannot let that happen to me. I cannot let that happen to anyone else. Hannah accepted her. Yuna was faster than Doan. She had natural emotional control. Within 2 weeks, she could hold 3 feelings at once. Hannah said she had talent. In my time, she would have been a great actress, Hannah said. But Dohan kept struggling. He could split his mind, but the layers kept breaking apart. His real emotions would rise to the surface at bad moments. He was not ready. Then came the breakthrough. One night, Hannah asked him to think of his daughter again. But this time, she told him something different. Feel the grief, she said. Feel all of it. Let it fill you completely, as Dohan did. The pain was so strong that tears fell down his face. His chest felt like it was breaking. Now, Hannah said softly, while you feel that grief, I want you to feel something else. I want you to feel grateful. Grateful that you had her. Grateful for the time you spent together. Grateful that she existed. Doan tried. At first, the two feelings fought each other. Grief and gratitude. Loss and love. They were so different. But then something strange happened. The feelings stopped fighting. They started to exist together. He felt grief for losing her and gratitude for having her. Both were real. Both were true. And on the surface, the gratitude was stronger. His reader broadcast contentment. You did it, Yuna whispered. Duhan opened his eyes. He was crying, but his reader showed nothing sad. For the first time in years, He was feeling real human emotion while the Villani saw only what he wanted them to see. He looked at Hannah. The old woman was crying too. "That is the secret," she said. "You do not fight your feelings. You do not pretend. You feel everything, but you choose what to show. That is what makes us human. We are not simple. We are deep. And no machine can measure our depth." That night, a man named Taiwu found them. He was big and strong, a former soldier. He had been watching Doan for weeks, thinking he was a Villani spy. "Show me," Taiwu said. His fists were ready. "Show me what you can do, or I will kill you for working with the enemy." Doan looked at him calmly. Inside, fear was burning. But on the surface, he felt only peace. His reader stayed silent. "I hate the Villani," Doan said. "I want them gone. I want humanity free. But my reader shows nothing. Check it yourself." Taiwu looked at a small device on his wrist. It connected to the Villani network. It showed Doan's emotional reading. Calm, peaceful, empty. The soldier's eyes went wide. "How?" he asked. "How is that possible?" "Sit down," Hannah said. "We have much to teach you." So the group grew. A psychologist. A medic. A soldier. An actress. For humans who had learned to lie with their hearts, it was a small beginning. But every fire starts with a single spark. Outside, the Villani watched their screens and saw nothing unusual. Just more broken humans, feeling nothing, doing what they were told. They had no idea what was coming. 6 months passed. The group grew carefully, quietly, like a plant growing in the dark. They called themselves the Faces. Hannah taught new students every week. The training happened in different places. Old buildings. Empty basements. Anywhere the Villani did not watch closely. On paper, it was a community wellness program. The readers showed peaceful feelings. Group meditation. Emotional stability exercises. The Villani approved of such programs. Calm humans were easier to control. They did not know that behind those calm feelings, a rebellion was learning to breathe. Doan became Hannah's best student. His psychology training helped him understand how emotions worked in the brain. He created new methods, new exercises. He taught people how to build emotional layers in their minds. First layer, the feeling you want to hide. Second layer, the feeling you want to show. Third layer, the feeling that makes the second layer real. It was complicated. It took months to learn. But every week, more people succeeded. Yuna found new students in the medical centers. She looked for people who had lost someone to emotional correction. These people had the most reason to fight. They also had the most pain to hide. She taught them gently, patiently. She became like a mother to them. Taiwu handled security. He found former soldiers, police officers, anyone with combat training. Many of them had the same problem, too much anger. The readers caught anger easily. Taiwu taught them to put their rage deep down, below layers of false calm. It was like putting a wild animal in a cage inside their minds. A new member joined them. His name was Jinsu, a merchant who traveled between labor zones. He knew people everywhere. He carried messages. He built connections. With Jinsu's help, the Faces spread to other cities. Daegu, Seoul, Gwangju, small groups started training everywhere. And then there was Nari. Jinsu found her hacking into Villani communication signals. She was only 22 years old, thin and quiet, with eyes that never stopped moving. She had been stealing information from the Villani for 3 years, alone, without anyone knowing. "How did you hide your feelings?" Doan asked her. "The hacking must have made you afraid, excited. The readers should have caught you." Nari smiled. "Music," she said. "I play music in my head while I work. It changes my emotional pattern. The reader sees a person enjoying a song, not a person breaking Villani's security." She was a natural. Within 1 month, she was teaching others. Nari also brought important information. She had learned how the Villani emotion network worked. Every reader sent data to local collection points. The collection points sent data to zone headquarters. Zone headquarters sent data to the global command. The system is huge, Nari explained, but it has limits. The Villani cannot process every signal. They use filters. They look for patterns. Sudden changes, unusual spikes. If you change your emotions slowly, if you match the patterns around you, they might not notice. This changed everything. The faces learned to move together. They learned to match their emotional broadcasts. When one person needed to feel something dangerous, others nearby would feel the same thing, so no one stood out. The first real test came on a cold night in November. Jinsu needed to enter a high-security zone. The Villani kept their ship repair facilities there. The faces needed to know what was inside. Maps, guard schedules, weak points. Jinsu walked through the checkpoint with a small camera hidden in his coat. His reader broadcast boredom and tiredness. He was just another tired worker going home after a long shift. Inside, his heart was beating like a drum. Fear and excitement filled his chest. But those feelings stayed at the bottom. On the surface, only boredom. The Villani guards looked at their screens. They saw nothing unusual. Jinsu walked through the entire facility. He photographed everything. Defense positions, communication centers, fuel storage. Every important detail. When he walked out 2 hours later, he was still broadcasting boredom. That night, the faces celebrated quietly. No cheering. No parties. Those would trigger the readers. But they smiled at each other with their eyes. They had done something impossible. They had walked through Villani's security with lies in their hearts, but success brought danger. 1 week later, new trainee broke during practice. His name was Min-ho. He was young, maybe 19, with too much anger and not enough control. Hannah had warned him to go slowly, but he pushed too hard. During a group session, something inside Min-ho snapped. All his hidden rage came flooding to the surface. His reader screamed a warning to the network. The Villani arrived in 4 minutes. Everyone scattered. The faces had practiced this. They split into small groups and moved in different directions, all broadcasting calm acceptance. The Villani saw a crowd of peaceful people going about their business. But Min-ho was caught. 2 enforcers grabbed him and dragged him away. He was screaming, fighting, completely out of control. Hannah was also in danger. She was too old to run fast. Taiwu saw her falling behind. Without thinking, he did something crazy. He walked straight toward the enforcers and started shouting, "Help! Medical emergency! This man is having a seizure." The enforcers paused. Their readers showed Taiwu feeling genuine concern and panic. He was a good citizen trying to help. They lowered their guard for just 1 second. That second was enough. Yuna appeared from nowhere and pulled Hannah into an alley. They disappeared. Taiwu was questioned for an hour. He stayed in character the whole time. A confused worker who saw someone fall down. Nothing more. Finally, they let him go, but Min-ho was gone. He would come back from correction as an empty shell. That night, the group met in a new location. The mood was heavy. "We lost one," Taiwu said. "The method is not perfect." "No method is perfect," Hannah replied. Her voice was tired but strong. "We knew this would happen. Some people will break. Some will be caught. The question is, do we stop or do we continue?" No one spoke. The answer was obvious. "We continue," Doan said. 3 days later, Overseer Keth made an announcement. The Villani would conduct random emotional audits, deeper scans, more frequent checks. They had noticed something wrong in Zone 7. They did not know what it was, but they were looking. The danger was growing, but so was the resistance. Doan looked at his small group. Hannah, growing weaker, but never giving up. Yuna, quiet and strong. Taiwu, a weapon waiting to be used. Nari, her mind always working. Jinsu, connecting them to the world, and hundreds more hidden across the zone, learning to lie with their hearts. "We need more people," Doan said. "If enough of us broadcast false emotions at the same time, we might overload their network. We might blind them. That would take thousands," Nari said. "Then we find thousands." Jinsu smiled. I know people in Zone 12, Japan, and Zone 4, Southeast Asia. They are angry. They are ready. If we can teach them the method, then we are not alone, Hannah finished. She looked out the window at the dark city. Somewhere out there, the Villani were watching their screens. Trusting their technology, believing they knew everything about their human subjects, they were wrong. Humanity was waking up. Slowly, silently, with false smiles and hidden fire, the faces were spreading. And one day, when there were enough of them, they would show the Villani something they had never seen before. A species that could lie with its heart. A species that could choose what to feel. A species that would never, ever surrender. 1 year after Doan first knocked on Hannah's door, everything was different. The faces now counted over 800 people in Zone 7 alone. Each one could deceive their reader. Each one was a weapon hiding in plain sight. The resistance had spread to 12 other zones across Asia and Europe. Jinsu's network carried messages, methods, and hope to millions. But the greatest change came from Nari. She had stolen a broken reader from a medical waste facility. For 3 months, she took it apart piece by piece, studying every component. She wanted to understand exactly how the Villani measured emotions. What she found changed everything. There is a delay, she told the group one night. The reader takes 0.3 seconds to detect an emotion and broadcast it. 0.3 of a second. That is not much, but it is something. What can we do with 0.3 of a second? Taiwu asked. Nari's eyes lit up. We can speak. She explained her idea. A skilled face could feel a genuine emotion for just a fraction of a second, then switch to a different emotion. The reader would catch the first emotion but mark it as noise, a random spike. Not important enough to flag, but another trained face would notice. You can create a code, Nari said. Short bursts of emotion. Like blinking lights. One spike of fear means danger. 2 spikes of joy means safe. Different combinations mean different things. Yuna understood immediately. We can communicate. Without words, without technology, just with our feelings. We spent 2 weeks developing the system. It was like learning a new language. Short pulse of anger, stop. Long pulse of peace, continue. Quick sequence of hope, fear, hope. Meeting tonight. Slow wave of sadness. Someone has been taken. The Villani network saw these emotional pulses as normal human variation. Everyone had small emotional changes throughout the day. It was meaningless noise. But for the faces, it was a secret radio. Yuna put the system to its first test. She worked near the medical facility where emotional corrections happened. Every day she walked past guards and security checkpoints. Her reader showed her as a dedicated medical worker, feeling calm professionalism. But while she worked, she watched. She memorized patrol schedules. She mapped the building layout. She noted which doors were guarded and which were not. Every night, she passed this information to the resistance using emotional pulses. A face at the next checkpoint felt her signals. That face passed them to another. Within hours, the information reached Taiwu. The correction facility was no longer a mystery. They knew its secrets. Similar work happened across Zone 7. The faces walked through every important Villani installation. Power stations. Communication centers. Transportation hubs. They mapped everything, and the Villani never saw them. But the work was taking its toll. Hannah grew weaker each month. Decades of emotional control had damaged something inside her. Her body was tired. Her mind was sharp, but it lived in a failing house. One evening, Doan found her sitting alone, looking at her old photographs. I was beautiful once, she said. I stood on stages in Seoul and Tokyo. Thousands of people watched me feel. They saw love, hate, joy, sorrow. All real. All chosen. You are still beautiful, Doan said. Hannah smiled. You are a bad liar. Lucky for you, lying with words is not important. Only lying with heart. She touched his hand. I will not see the end of this. I know that. But you will. Promise me something. Anything. When you win, Teach the children to feel freely. Do not let them grow up empty like this generation. Let them laugh and cry and love without fear. That is what we are fighting for. Not revenge. Not power. Just the right to feel. Promise, Doan said. The random audits increased. Overseer Keth knew something was wrong in Zone 7. He could not prove it, but he felt it. The emotional patterns were too smooth, too perfect. Humans were not supposed to be this calm. He called Doan in for personal questioning. Doan sat in that black office again, across from those empty blue eyes. Keth studied him for a long time. Your emotional pattern has changed, Keth said. 1 year ago, you showed curiosity. Now you show nothing. Perfect contentment. Perfect peace. Why? Doan had prepared for this moment for months. He knew it would come. He let a small amount of genuine truth into his voice. I accepted my place, he said. Fighting makes life hard. Wanting makes life painful. I stopped wanting. I stopped fighting. Now, I just exist. Is that not what you wish for, all humans? Keth leaned forward. His eyes tried to dig into Doan's soul, but Doan was not afraid. Or rather, he was afraid. He was terrified. But underneath the terror, he had built a platform of genuine peace. Acceptance of death. Acceptance of failure. Whatever happened, he would not break. The reader broadcast only that acceptance. Keth stared at him for 10 more minutes. Then he waved his hand. Go, but I am watching you. I am watching everyone. Doan walked out. His legs were shaking. His heart was exploding. But his reader showed only mild relief. He had beaten Keth. He had looked into the eyes of the enemy and lied perfectly that night. She passed away in her sleep, her face peaceful. Her reader broadcast contentment until the last moment. Even in death, she did not let them see her truth. The faces mourned her in silence. They could not cry openly. They could not gather to remember her. Instead, they passed emotional pulses through the night. Waves of hidden grief flowing from person to person. Invisible to the Villani but felt by every face in the city, it was their first act of collective emotional defiance. Doan stood in Hannah's empty apartment, surrounded by her photographs. The woman on those stages was gone now, but what she had taught them would live forever. We will finish this, he whispered. I promise. Outside, the city continued its quiet existence. Workers went to factories. Children walked to schools. Everyone showed empty faces and calm readers. But underground, invisible, the resistance was ready. Jinsu had confirmed contact with 32 zones worldwide. Taiwu had mapped every Villani installation in their region. Yuna had trained a medical network that could support wounded fighters. Nari had cracked into the edge of the Villani communication system. The pieces were in place. Now, they just needed the right moment. In his headquarters, Overseer Keth looked at his screens. Something was wrong. He could not explain it. The data showed calm, peaceful humans everywhere. No problems. No resistance. But deep in his alien mind, a feeling stirred. Something he had never experienced before. Doubt he pushed it away. The readers were perfect. The technology was perfect. Humans could not deceive it. Humans could not lie with their hearts. It was impossible. He believed this completely. That belief would be his end. The day came on a Tuesday in spring. The sun rose over a quiet world. Humans went to work. Villani watched their screens. Nothing was unusual, but everything was about to change. At exactly 8 in the morning, across 47 zones on Earth, millions of trained faces began to feel joy. Real, genuine, powerful joy. Not forced, not fake. They thought of happy memories. First loves. Children laughing. Sunsets over oceans. Beautiful music. Everything good they had ever experienced. The Villani network flagged it immediately. Emotional anomaly. Mass joy event. But the analysts were confused. Joy was not dangerous. Joy meant humans were happy. Happy humans did not cause problems. They marked it as unusual, but not threatening. Perhaps some kind of holiday. A cultural event they did not understand. The joy continued for 4 hours. Then, at noon, the joy changed to peace. Deep, calm, absolute peace. Millions of humans broadcasting complete inner stillness. The network flagged this too. But again, peace was not dangerous. Overseer Keth watched the data from his office. Something cold moved in his chest. This was wrong. This was too coordinated. Humans did not feel the same thing at the same time. They were chaotic creatures. Emotional noise was normal. This perfect harmony was not. He ordered all enforcers to high alert, but he did not know what to look for. His screens showed only peaceful. Happy humans, the peace continued until sunset. At exactly 7 in the evening, faces released everything. Every hidden emotion. Every buried feeling. Every suppressed moment of rage, grief, hope, love, and defiance from 10 years of occupation. All of it, all at once, from millions of humans across the planet. The Villani network exploded. Screens went white. Alarms screamed. Data centers overloaded. The readers were designed to handle individual emotional spikes. Not a tidal wave of feeling from an entire species, but it was worse than just technical failure. The Villani felt it directly. Their species had evolved to read emotions. It was their primary sense. And now that sense was being attacked with a weapon they had never imagined. The emotional shockwave hit them like a physical blow. Overseer Keth collapsed in his chair. His mind, built for emotional transparency, could not process what it was receiving. Joy becoming rage. Peace becoming war. Love and hate mixing together. Lies made of truth. Truth made of lies. Humans were supposed to be simple. They were supposed to be open books. Instead, they were screaming in a language the Villani could not understand. Across Zone 7, Taiwu led the assault. Former soldiers moved through the streets, their readers now useless. They hit the enforcement stations first, then the communication centers. Villani, guards, still disoriented from the emotional attack, could not organize resistance. Unit-coordinated medical teams. She had prepared for this for months. Supplies were hidden in safe locations. Trained helpers waited at every corner. When the fighting started, she was ready. Nari sat in a hidden room full of stolen technology. Her fingers flew over keyboards. She attacked the Villani communication network from inside, sending false orders, creating confusion. Enemy units received commands to retreat. Friendly units received warnings about attacks that did not exist. Jinsu guided civilians to safety. He knew every tunnel, every hidden path. Families followed him through the dark, away from the fighting, and Dahon stood in the central square. Watching the screen's news feeds from around the world showed the same thing. Humans rising. Villani falling. Not because humanity had better weapons. Not because humanity was stronger. But because humanity had done something the Villani thought was impossible. They had lied with their hearts. They had chosen what to feel. They had used their emotional complexity as a weapon. The Villani could not fight an enemy they could not understand. 3 hours after the uprising began, Doan was brought to Overseer Keth. The alien was sitting in his dark office alone. His skin had turned a sickly gray. His eyes, usually flat and empty, now showed something new. Confusion? Fear? How? Keth asked. His voice was broken. How did you do this? We read your emotions. We saw everything. You were peaceful. You were broken. You were ours. Dohan stood before him, feeling everything. Pride, sorrow, victory, loss. All at once, all together, like a symphony. You saw what we felt, Doan said. You never asked what we thought. You measured our hearts but ignored our minds. You believed emotions were simple, because your emotions are simple. You believed one feeling meant one truth. He stepped closer to the fallen overseer. But humans are not simple. We feel many things at once. We can love and hate the same person. We can hope and despair in the same moment. We can smile while our hearts break. We are not one thing. We are never just one thing.
How?
Keth stared at him. We should have destroyed you. When we first came, we should have killed you all. Yes, Doan agreed. But you did not. Because you thought you understood us. That was your mistake. You saw the surface of the ocean and thought you knew its depth. Outside, the sounds of fighting were fading. The Volani forces were surrendering across the zone. The same was happening worldwide. The aliens who could read emotions perfectly had been blinded by their own certainty. Within a week, the Volani began their retreat. They could not stay on a planet where their primary sense was useless. Humans had shown they could lie perfectly, and that knowledge could not be unlearned. Every human was now a potential enemy. Every peaceful face might hide a warrior. The Volani left Earth, not as conquerors, but as refugees from their own confusion. 5 years later, the world was healing. The readers were gone. The correction facilities had been torn down. Children grew up without fear of feeling. They laughed loudly. They cried openly. They loved without hiding. Duhun taught at a new university in Busan. His subject was emotional integrity, a field he had created himself. He taught young people to understand their feelings, to use them wisely, to never let anyone control them through fear again. Yuna ran the global medical network. She had built something beautiful from the ashes of the occupation. Hospitals that healed both body and mind. Programs that helped people recover from years of emotional suppression. Nari led the Planetary Defense Project. She worked with scientists from every country, building systems that would detect any future threat. She also led the team that studied the captured Volani technology. Humans were learning fast. Taiwu commanded the new Planetary Guard. Not an army of conquest, but a force of protection. He trained soldiers who were strong in both body and heart. Jinsu opened trade routes between nations. For the first time in decades, goods and ideas flowed freely across the world. The zones were gone. Humanity was one again, and in the center of Busan, a statue stood in the main square. An old woman with fire in her eyes and peace on her face, Hannah, the actress who had taught humanity to lie. Doan visited the statue often. He would stand before it and feel everything. Grief for those who had died, joy for those who lived, pride in what they had accomplished, hope for what would come. One evening, he watched children playing nearby. They were running and laughing, their faces full of expression. One girl fell and started crying. Her friends gathered around her, hugging her, comforting her. Real emotions, freely shown. An old man next to Doan smiled. Strange, is it not? Before the Volani, we thought emotions made us weak. Now we know they make us strong. Doan nodded. The Volani thought they knew everything about us because they could read our hearts. They never realized that the human heart cannot be read. It can only be shared. He looked up at the sky. Somewhere out there, the Volani were still watching, still wondering, still afraid of the small blue planet that had defeated them with nothing but feeling. Let them watch, Doan thought. Let them see what we have become. A species that smiles while planning revolution. A species that feels many things at once. A species that can choose what to show and what to hide. Humans, the only species in the galaxy that learned to lie with their hearts. And the only species that turned that lie into freedom. The sun set over Busan. The children kept playing. And somewhere, in the quiet space between thought and feeling, Hannah was smiling. They had won, not with weapons, not with strength, but with the most human power of all, the power to feel everything, show nothing, and never, ever give up.